Well, there it is. Hello, welcome to a WTiiWarcraft video. In this video, we talk about the PTR notes that Blizzard have recently published. So, patch 1.30.3 is on the public test realm right now. You can test it out yourself if you wish to do so. And it does introduce some changes that I think many of you will welcome. So, Pete Stillwell says, "Greetings, raiders, tinkerers, harbingers, and wardens. We've got some balance updates and bug fixes for your enjoyment over the holiday." So, the bug fixes include damage mitigated by hardened skin will now correctly be reduced to 3 at a minimum, up from 1. So this reflects upon the mountain giant unit and his upgrade hardened skin. This was a bit of an issue because it turned out that sometimes when you attacked it, you was only doing like 1 damage. And yeah, they got 1600 health, so they're pretty amazing already as it is. And when you get the hardened skin, they become practically invincible, which is a lot of people's concerns right now, is that Night Elf kind of reached this point with the mountain giants. And I've had plenty of games where I've done this. I've got videos coming out that'll show this going off. I get like 4 or 5 mountain giants, and then more if I've got the expansion, which I do get to a point where I can have that. And I basically don't lose a mountain giant from the very first mountain giant that comes out to the end of the game, because it's practically impossible to lose one, providing you have some level of micro. So this will help the weaker units that do less damage, so piercing damage units like riflemen, headhunters. Crypt Fiends actually do quite a lot of damage. I can't imagine they get reduced down to 1. But yeah, it's a big change. Good step. I like it. It needs to be done. Hardened skin is pretty crazy, and I would imagine that there might be a couple more things happening to Mountain Giants in the near future, but we'll see how it goes. Baby steps. For now, the next bug fix is the second pulse from the taunt ability will no longer fire if the Mountain Giant is dead and affected by ability disabling effects. Now, this is actually quite good. I like how this sounds. It's like if you control the mountain giant, he can't get that extra sort of taunt off. And believe me, that's important because this has been a real problem. When you've got mass mountain giants, yeah, they're all spamming taunt. Now they cast it twice, so it's pretty hard. You have to pretty much spend almost all of your APM just right-clicking on dryads and not the mountain giants. And you can't really do anything else because there's so many taunts going off in between. You just have to right-click like a nutter. So I really like this, but the shame of it is the kind of like the funny lore aspect of it where they're dying breath, they're taunting you. I like the idea of them saying, "Yeah, come at me." It's like the Black Knight from the Holy Grail, where he's like, "'Tis but a scratch. Is that it?" And he's like missing arms and legs, and he's like basically dead, but he's still like, "Come at me." But anyway, this is a good change. So now we move on to the hero balance changes. Keeper of the Grove, Entangling Roots. The cast range is reduced from 800 to 600. So the developer notes say Entangling Roots is of high utility to the Keeper's kit. The change is intended to add a bit more risk to its use without reducing its effectiveness. The spell now has the same range as the Keeper's auto attack, which should increase the opportunity for counterplay. That it does. We've all been there. We've all been entangled, and the Keeper of the Grove is practically off the screen, and you have to almost do a double take, and you go, wow, yeah, that entangle range is quite long. So this means that as long as you stay out of his auto attack range, you shouldn't be able to be entangled. There is always that issue where you're sort of like running away, they're running away, and as they're casting it, they are within that 600 range, and you do get some distance between the cast animation, and then it looks like it's longer than it is. But still, this is a big change. 200 range is a massive change. It means that you just, as long as you sort of pay attention to your positioning, which is good. We want players to be paying attention to micro, macro position. It's all part that makes Warcraft 3 a fun game to watch. So there's more counterplay, as they say, by doing so, that you stay out of that auto attack range, you shouldn't be able to get entangled. Big change, good change. Alchemist now does acid bomb change. So we got level 1, level 2, level 3 basically doing less damage over time. So acid bomb level 1 goes from 120 to 190. Level 2 is 195 to 165. Level 3 is a 200 to 255. So this is a step in the right direction. However, I'll read out the developer notes and I'll give you my thoughts. Alchemist provides awesome AoE healing, has high hit points, is powerful enough to pick off units and debuff opponents effectively. Heroes generally shouldn't check every single box for potential rolls. Reducing acid bombs, single target damage, better focuses him in a support role. Recent tweaks to healing spray cemented him as a great alternative healer for any race, and those effects have been positive to gameplay. So yes, the biggest issue with Alchemist right now is he's just a little bit too good at what he does with the acid bomb. It costs 75 mana, which is insanely cheap. It's very easy to cast. It feels like it's got a really long range when you're fighting against it, because it basically tracks down no matter what. You can't get rid of it. Even Gargoyle form doesn't get rid of it. This is why you don't see Panda so much in comparison to Alchemist, because good undead players would put on Gargoyle form as soon as they got Drunken Haze to reduce or remove the effect of Drunken Haze. So Breath of Fire wouldn't do so much damage. Acid Bomb you can't get rid of. So it's really nasty, and it just does a bit too much. At level 1, it reduces the armor by 3. At level 2, it reduces the armor by 4. At level 3, it reduces the armor by 5. What I would like to see is actually a reduction to the armor, not the damage over time. The damage over time is an issue, and this is a good step because it reduces it, but not too much. So really what I would like to see is the armor being reduced. Down from level 1 would be 1, level 2 would be 2, and level 3 would be 3. So basically knocking it down by 2 each level. That's what I propose, because you're getting damage over time, you're getting armor reduction, and the potential for AoE, area of effect. Even if this hits one target, it's really good. But if it hits a clump of units, it can hit like up to 8 or plus units, which is kind of crazy when you think about how much potential damage that is, as well as the armor reduction hitting all of those units. So area of effect abilities or damage from like glaive throwers, for example, will just accumulate, and it gets out of hand. So yeah, I think Alchemist needs another change to Acid Bomb. The only downside is if we keep nerfing Acid Bomb, what do you do? Because people don't pick really healing spray anymore with him, not so much. Chemical Rage is still good though, so you don't want to nerf him too much. You go down this road, you just need to sort of like target, what do you want? Do you want damage from it, or do you want armor reduction? You can't really have both, otherwise we're getting balance issues, which is why he's being touched up at the moment. So moving on to human balance changes, we have Defend. Piercing damage reduction increased from 50% to 65%. The in-game tooltip will show this as 50% damage taken to 35%. So the developer notes there has been a drop-off in the use of Defend after changes with the 1.30 balance update. This change is intended to restore usage. Its original behavior relied on RNG rather than a flat damage modifier. We anticipate there may need to be adjustments to the percentage, so we will be keeping an eye on how this performs. So Defend right now, it's really quite rubbish. There's a lot of concern from the higher level players as to how much of an impact this has on their gameplay. Humans pretty much need to get an expansion because they suffer fundamentally versus the other races if they're one base versus one base, particularly versus Orc and Night Elf. I feel like this is a deep-rooted issue more with the human economic system. I don't think it should be balanced around them having to have an expansion to be competitive. They don't have to. It is possible to beat another race with one base on one base. But generally speaking, a human pretty much needs more gold coming in than the opponent. So Footman Defend is there to help you stay alive whilst you try to get your expansion up. However, as it performs right now, it doesn't really do that job. Fiends, Dryads, undead fiends come in quite heavily. Then the second hero with the Lich, and they just keep punishing and punishing. And even with Defend, the fiends don't care. It's very easy to pick off a defended footman. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, you'd think that would make the footman more or less invincible, but it doesn't. The undead is just like, yeah, no, I'll just carry on attacking it and right-clicking it, and this is going to go better for me than it's going to go for you. And the Dryads, they have abolished magic, so they get rid of the water elementals, which is really the only threat to them, apart from the archmage damage. The footman can't really reach them very easily, so then they just dance around and they do their damage. So a step in the right direction, but personally I would like to see Defend's cost reduced. The 75 gold I would like to see it from 150 gold and 100 wood down to 75 gold and 50 wood, because I personally think this would allow the human player to throw down that extra tower or have the chance to tech up that little bit quicker. I can't talk sometimes. Quicker. Malachite. This would help them a lot to progress to the stage where they can actually really fight off their opponent, rather than just this long 5 to 10 minute stage of them trying to keep an expansion alive, which is kind of painful to watch sometimes and very painful to play. As your opponent sort of like techs up and gets stronger and stronger, you're still struggling pushing out footmen because there's nothing else you can do, because you've got no wood left after spending 100 wood on defend. So I think it really hampers the humans gameplay. So let me know what you think about that one. Moving on to the night elf balance changes once again. Mountain Giant, the base stats, food cost is increased from 6 to 7, and the cargo size increased from 2 to 4. The developer notes say Mountain Giants are imposing disruptive heavy tanks with great siege potential. That potential becomes absolute in large packs. They were never intended to be a mass unit. Increasing food costs will make adding additional giants past the first few cut more heavily into the player's army makeup, as well as push them into a higher upkeep faster. Additionally, by increasing cargo size, they will match the siege engine, a fellow high durability siege damage unit. So the food cost, this isn't really that big a deal, but it still has an impact. However, up to 50 food, this doesn't really impact the Night Elf player. You can get 2 heroes, 5 wisps and gold, 7 wisps and wood, and 4 mountain giants, whether it's 6 food for the mountain giants or 7, and still be 50 food or under. But it's when it goes past that point, it gets a bit more tricky. So the food cost doesn't really affect them in the 50 food game, which, to be honest, mountain giants are near invincible, so I always try to stay at 50 food with them, because you're never really going to lose them. And then you get maximum gold. So I don't know how much of an impact this truly has, as opposed to increasing the gold cost. Or I think this is still better than increasing the gold cost, though, because gold costs, sometimes the Night Elves can get expansions easy, and then they don't care. So it's a tough one with the mountain giants. I think the issue really is things like that hardened duration, that hardened skin, which did get sort of like bug fixed, could maybe be touched up a bit more to reduce a little bit less damage than it currently does, because that's really where the issue is them not really getting hurt by anything. Not so much their food cost. It's really the fact that they're pretty much invincible. I get it, they're mountain giants, they're supposed to be tanky, but they're kind of like almost invincible at this point. Cargo size is a good change. I think this would definitely help, not only in 1 versus 1, but 4 versus 4 RT, all of those team games. There is this issue I've had with mountain giants right now, where their siege damage is probably too good, to be quite frank with you. You can have this standoff with your opponent, and say, for example, you got the mountain giants, and you can't really kill their units very easily, but that's where your Alchemist comes in, and your Keeper of the Grove and a couple of Dryads. You're sort of like dancing back and forth, and then you can kind of get to this point where you, say, for example, you do get like 6 to 7 of them. You just go, you know what? These guys are so invincible. Screw it. I'll just stop fighting your army. I will pick up a tree with each of my mountain giants, and then I'll just actually start wailing on your buildings. And like siege engines, they take so damn long to kill that you can kill their buildings and then not really lose a single mountain giant because of things like micro, taunt usage, so you're mitigating the damage and spreading it amongst all of your mountain giants, and then of course finally Staff of Preservation, where you just teleport the unit instantly out of trouble and then teleport back to your base, and you can pretty much guarantee kill some very important structures like arcane sanctums or barracks, voodoo lounge, maybe a burrow or a few farms. You can get quite a lot of structures down, and even more victoriously, if you're able to do so, the main base or the entire expansion. Just beeline for it and just micro your mountain giants, as hard as that is, and then get out. And there's not that much punishment. I think the siege damage is too high. Anyway, Glaive Thrower now. 4-ball Glaive. Developer notes: the 4-ball Glaive upgrade has been bugged for some time. The main target of the Glaive Thrower always takes full damage. The area of effect from the Glaives changes from a circle into a line. Glaives can kill trees, so the main target takes full damage as if the projectile was a homing shot. But the Glaive doesn't follow said target. Instead, it hits the ground like it missed, and does line damage where it impacts. If we fix Vorpal Glaive to adhere to reduce damage of siege weapons to units, then researching the upgrade feels like a nerf. When it exchanges radical damage for line damage, we want to address these issues by having the projectile correctly track and impact the main target of the glaive thrower. This embraces a distinctive behavior from other siege weapons. So I just want to read that again. We want to address these issues by having the projectile correctly track and impact the main target of the glaive thrower. So have you ever seen it when the glaive thrower is sort of like attacking a hero, and the hero can move quite fast, like a demon hunter or something like that, and it looks like the glaive thrower is like missed by about 200-300 range, but it actually still hit the target for like the full damage. That's what they're getting on about here. They want it to reflect correctly. So helping with our goal of pushing each race to have their own identity, we hope to have glaives tracking their targets and ready for the next balance patch, though the updates are not included in this PTR. So basically they haven't done anything to increase the damage, reduce the damage, do anything with the range. They're just giving you notes on how they feel about how it works, so the area of effect damage and all that. So take from that what you will, and there you go. Balance changes. So we have the hardened skin not being quite as invincible, but it's still a real big issue. Keeper of the Grove getting a rightful nerf. Alchemist getting a rightful nerf. Balance changes for the human, with the defend being a little bit better, but I still think it's weak. Night Elf balance changes, Mountain Giants, and Glaive Throwers. So, yeah, I think pretty much all of you will fundamentally agree that these are good changes. Let me know in the comments section below what you liked and what you thought could be done differently. Did you agree with their decisions? Did you think that maybe there's a few alterations you would make yourself? Feel free to post those down, and take care, guys. Thanks very much for watching. All the best. Bye-bye.